Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so today we are going to be talking all about Lilith through the signs. Yes. So if I just present this information, I am looking forward to this one. Should be interesting. Now, before we do dive in, however, if you would like to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. And also, you can pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets. They are both available over on my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And of course, you can also book a reading with me if you're interested too. Another thing I want to mention is there is an episode all about Black Moon Lilith in astrology on the Cosmic Check-In podcast. So if you haven't listened to that yet, give it a listen. We really explore the mythology of Lilith deeply and the role of Lilith in your birth chart. But if we're just to focus on some brief information about Black Moon Lilith in the birth chart, well, there's quite a bit to talk about. What I'm also going to say here is there is a mean Lilith and a true Lilith. I have been working more so with the true Lilith, and the code for that is H13. So if you would like to find that in your chart, so go to astro.com, type into the manual entry section code H13, and you'll be able to find the true Lilith. I mean, I know for me, the mean Lilith and true Lilith are both in Aquarius, but the degrees really matter because the true Lilith conjuncts the sun in my chart. Okay, but Black Moon Lilith in the birth chart can really show up as where we are villainized, demonized, where we are shamed, judged, ridiculed, right? We can be strongly, heavily shunned and rejected. Humiliation can come into this. People can look down on us. Plus, we can repress our urges, our anger, our frustrations. Forbidden desires can show up when we think about the placement, our Lilith placement. Plus, how we react when we are being overpowered and dominated is very much shown through Black Moon Lilith. And there is a wildness to Lilith. There is this rebellious nature, defiance, saying, no, you will not dominate me. No, you will not control me or tell me who I am. Yeah, Lilith in the chart can be rather untamed and also can point towards our strong primal instincts and urges. Then we also see here that we can connect with our autonomy. We can empower ourselves. So we want to think about this, I suppose, by thinking of Lilith as stages, right? There are stages to working with Lilith. So maybe this first stage could be about times whenever we were villainized or humiliated. And then what can happen is we can repress, we can play things down, or we can shame ourselves, perhaps. But then there is also a more of an integration stage where we can say, hold on, no, I'm not going to tolerate that. So we can connect with our autonomy. We also can connect with our authenticity. We can tell the truth. Non-conformity is very strong here. And so what we can do is we can turn what we are ashamed of, what we're really ashamed of, into something empowering, right? So something that you might have been shamed for when you were younger could actually be used as a great source of power for you later on in life. However, and there's always a however when we think about working with the different planets and asteroids and points, because Lilith is a point, but there is this likelihood of us going to extremes. So we want to be mindful of this too. Times whenever our Black Moon Lilith can take over, right? We can give into this ruthlessness, the untamed part of us that is kind of rogue, doesn't know how to calm down. We can also give into our temptations, our urges, but in an extreme way. So I even think about addiction, for example. We can also be really confrontational. And a lot of this then I think is about trying to hide what's underneath. So hiding from our pain, covering up our pain, not wanting to address how we're really feeling on the inside. But yeah, so indeed, we can hide from what is really going on deep down. All right, with the explanation of Black Moon Lilith in your birth chart being explained, we're going to go through the Black Moon Lilith signs. I hope you enjoy these, and thank you so much for watching. All right, so now let's get into Black Moon Lilith through the signs. First up, we have Aries. Yes, Black Moon Lilith and Aries. Folks, what does this mean for you? Okay, Black Moon Lilith and Aries people, when you feel as if you're hard or rejected by others, you will most likely be very angry. I mean, furious. You can go from 0 to 100 really, really fast. You might possibly lash out at others, or you might storm off shouting, F you, I don't need you anyway. And you can turn into this rogue who doesn't need anybody, right? You're big on independence and your personal autonomy and your freedom, right? You refuse to let people walk over you and to be treated with disrespect. And even if others try to come to you and approach you, but you're very, very angry still, you might yell at them or tell them strongly, leave me alone. You can just be very firm about your boundaries and about the level of disrespect. Just imagine the anger of Aries, right? Aries is known for its anger. Imagine the anger being times 1,000. But then also imagine the independent side of Aries being times 1,000. Because if someone betrays you, if they try to manipulate you, if they try to shame you or put you down, you'll gladly remove them from your space. You'll gladly separate yourself. And if you want to even get revenge, you'll be quite upfront about it. It's pretty obvious to others that you're trying to get your own back, right? It's so obvious. Also, you'll want to win in situations, especially in arguments where you really feel like you're right. So in the myth, basically, Lilith demands to be on top, right? And both her and Adam refuse to listen to one another. So this is how you can be when you don't get your way. There's no room for compromise here. There's no room for listening and trying to empathize with where the other person is coming from. And so in this way, yeah, it could be suggested that when you're in this place, when you're going through this experience, this mindset, you can be quite selfish and self-centered. Now, with that being said, it's your anger that is a response to pain. So, could it be that growing up, you were forced to suppress your ability to assert yourself? Were you bullied in school? Did others reject you anytime you tried to take the lead? Maybe you witnessed actual attacks or violence firsthand and you had no control in the situation. Maybe you were raised in a household that was full of this stuff. Possibly, though, suggesting suppressed self-assertion. Perhaps you even felt helpless in a situation like that. Or maybe you couldn't explore your independence or your autonomy in a more healthy way. Perhaps independence for you was distorted as being such as you being pushed to be independent far too soon, right? Maybe before you were ready, you were forced to be independent and to take control of your life in this regard. So, regardless of your personal experience here, there's something here about you subconsciously learning to bury your anger, to bury your vulnerability. And I'm also thinking that you could have buried healthy ways of exploring your independence, leadership, and self-assertion. I'm also thinking maybe this is where you were villainized in a large way, right? Villainized for being angry, villainized for taking a lead. It's as if to say a lot of people in your life just, they weren't comfortable with you being assertive or standing up for yourself. But you see, by integrating these parts of yourself, you can act on the things you want, right? You can express your anger in healthy ways. You can stand up for yourself without tearing others down in the process, right? You can have this healthy form of aggression. Perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater passion, motivation, drive, maybe a higher libido as well, or a more healthy libido, if you will, so to speak. Also, maybe you'll be more daring and more courageous. And so it's these things that really empower you, Lilith and Aries folks. Even following on from this point, when I think about libido, I wonder how you might have been villainized or humiliated in that way too, growing up or throughout your younger adult years. And again, this is about empowerment then, coming to, I suppose, empower yourself through the act of sex. Thank you so much, Lilith and Aries. And now we're going to move on to Black Moon Lilith being in Taurus. All right, Black Moon Lilith in Taurus, folks. Let's talk about you. So, when you feel as if you're being overpowered or rejected by others, shamed, ridiculed, judged heavily, humiliated, you will most likely be very, very stubborn and very fixed. You will refuse to listen to others, and you'll keep repeating the same thing over and over and over until the other person is broken by your will, right? It's this whole thing of refusing to budge, digging your heels in even deeper. And if you're really pushed, and I mean really pushed, you will blow your top, right? And there will be no controlling you or trying to calm you down. There will be no trying to reason with you. And you will be blinded, right? Blinded by your own rage. You might possibly throw things or take your rage out on objects. Heck, if you have given something to a loved one as a gift and then that same someone betrays you, lets you down, oh my goodness, you might even seek revenge by ruining the very thing that you bought them. Or you might take it away from them. So, in this regard, possessions and money may be used as a way to get your own back. It's like, if you're going to do this on me, then I'm going to take this from you and see how you like it. So, in this way, you can be quite possessive and quite persistent, insistent on things going your way. And it's almost like you can use items and materials and belongings as a source of power, as a way to control others. And also, if someone tries to manipulate you or shame you or put you down, you'll use what they value against them. So if you know how much that person loves a certain perfume, maybe you'll say that they smell terrible when they wear it. Or if you notice that they value their job, you'll make them feel like their role means nothing, right? It means nothing to them. It means nothing to society, contributes nothing. You can also really poke at their insecurities. It's like you can pick up on people's insecurities and their weaknesses. And then when the time strikes, you'll use those insecurities and weaknesses against them. Yeah, you can get others where it hurts, because it's often our values that mean the most to us. And then I'm also thinking about self-esteem and self-worth here, and how those things then can be used against others. Now, on the other hand, perhaps it's your anger here, perhaps it's this rage that you feel within you, this deepness within you, that is actually a response to pain. So let's think about this, because I'm wondering, could it be that growing up, you were made to feel so inadequate, so insecure, as if your skills, your talents, your gifts were less than? Maybe you were put down for how you looked, or maybe you didn't feel physically secure within your body or within your environment. Maybe your physical security was violated, right? I'm even thinking about the body here too. And I'm wondering, did you grow up fearful of money and materials? Maybe you and your family couldn't afford nice things. Then again, perhaps the things you valued were diminished. Could it be that you were told how bad certain pleasures, comforts, and values were? Or maybe you learned that you couldn't get too comfortable, you couldn't be too secure because of how unstable, unsteady things were. Still, regardless of your personal experiences here, maybe you subconsciously learned to bury your pleasures, to bury your desires. You buried healthy ways of exploring temptations, exploring desire, exploring sensuality, as well as, of course, those lustful feelings. So, by integrating these parts of yourself, I think, oh my goodness, Black Moon Lilith and Taurus folks, you can enjoy the things that you deem as pleasurable. You can get in touch with all things beautiful, material, sensual, right? You can tap into your sensual side. And by integrating your Black Moon Lilith, well, this perhaps can lead to greater patience, greater ease, greater inner security. So you're going to be a lot more gentle, a lot more calming and harmonious. It's these things that I think that are really going to empower you. Thank you, Lilith and Taurus. And now on to Black Moon Lilith in Gemini. All right, Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, folks, let's talk about you. So when you feel like you're being overpowered, when you're being rejected by others or shamed or judged heavily, things like that, this is where we notice that you will most likely be either detached or really mouthy. So you'll either refuse to engage with whoever is making you feel that way, and then you'll go into your head as you process your thoughts, or you'll get into a heated debate, a heated argument where you use your words to cut the other person down to size. So you'll be like, you think you can talk to me like that? I don't think so. Or you think you're so smart when really you're full of SH1T. You play mind games with the other person. It'll be a battle of wits. It'll be about trying to outsmart the other person or make them feel dumb, really, really stupid. Get them to second guess themselves. You might even choose to flee the scene because you'd rather do that than deal with all of the mess, all of the drama. And so instead, what you do is you vent, right? You might end up venting to someone. It could be a friend or someone that's quite close to you. Yeah, you will basically vent. And also, you could possibly post about the situation on social media. Like, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today. This BITCH, this CUNT. Perhaps revenge comes into the equation where you start mouthing off about the other person to others. So you could maybe spread rumors online amongst friends, paint that person out to be a certain way based on what they said, based on what they did. Or maybe you have these screaming voices in your head and all you can think about is how much that a-hole, the a-hole that person was to you. Still, there could be times when you do get into a verbal argument, confrontation, and you refuse to listen to where the other person is coming from. And in the process, you're detached, right? You're detached from your feelings as well as the other person's. So you're pretty much set on the facts or set on what you think is right or being right, and then making the other person look like an idiot, right? There's this intellectual demand to win at all costs. And if at any point someone tries to manipulate you or shame you, put you down, you will do the same right back, right? So, like I was saying earlier, you might play mind games. You might bring up all of the things that they feel ashamed of. It's like, oh, you thought you forgot about that, but I didn't. Haha, I've been keeping score. It's been stored up here for this very moment. Not healthy, I know, but this is Black Moon Lilith we were talking about here. Like I said, we can really present these themes of being so wild, so untamed, so ruthless in our approach. Indeed, you can use your words as a weapon, as a way to instill fear, and you can also use your detachment as a way to make the other person feel uncomfortable. So, in this way, you can have quite an unfeeling and uncaring attitude. Even if you're feeling all the feels on the inside, you'll refuse to let them see it. You don't want the other person or people to see you sweat. Now, with that being said, it's the stuff that is a response to something deeper, to pain. So, could it be that growing up, you were shouted at for being too noisy, too loud, too curious? Maybe you were told to shut up a lot, or you were made to feel like your opinions didn't matter. Maybe you didn't feel at all like you were intelligent because your intelligence was put down, or at least that's how it felt. Could also be a case of you being shamed for your creativity, for your ideas, right? Maybe these things were overlooked. Maybe you were also accused of telling lies, right? You may have tried to tell the facts or tell it straight, but others said that you were a liar. Still, regardless of your personal experience, you might have subconsciously learned, Lilith and Gemini folks, to bury your opinions and your ideas, your voice. You buried healthy ways of being curious, of exploring new information, being open to new ideas, right? Asking other people what their perspective is. And so by integrating these parts of yourself, you can actually become a really powerful communicator. You can heal through your words, with your words. You can gladly investigate the things you are strongly interested in, and you can be inquisitive within discussions. And so this is where integrating your Black Moon Lilith can really lead to greater fact-finding skills, articulation, curiosity. You'll be smarter and sharper. And so it's these things that can certainly empower you. But you know what? At the same time, you're still going to use your words as a way to communicate to other people, hey, that's not okay. That's not okay with me. And that's fine. Thank you so much, Lilith and Gemini. And now we're going to move on to Black Moon Lilith in Cancer. Okay, Black Moon Lilith in Cancer folks, let's talk about you. When you feel as if you're being overpowered or rejected or shamed, humiliated, villainized by others, you will most likely, and you might also react emotionally to the situation or person. All common sense, all logic, all reason goes out the window, and all you can focus on is how someone else made you feel. And there's certainly no talking you around the situation either or out of the situation, not unless you're being soothed correctly, right? Comforted. Perhaps there are certain things you need to do as a way to cope, as a way to make you feel better. And so trying to reason with you, it just doesn't work, right? Logic, reason, it's not going to work here. Then again, this could also be a case of you clamming up, you retreating, going into your shell. All of a sudden, you go silent and you don't want to talk about the situation with the other person, or you remove yourself from the situation as quickly as possible. Maybe you need time to process your emotions, or you need to explode somewhere. Now, you might also explode in the other person's face. There is that. I guess it depends on how you're feeling at the time, but essentially, your emotions are strongly impacted during times when you feel like you're being shunned, when you're being put down, villain in someone's story. Plus, you might experience times when you desperately want to get revenge on the person who treated you that way. You might do this by inflicting pain onto them, just like they did to you. Perhaps you deliberately withhold things from them, or you hold onto insults for a very long time. And when the time comes to remind that person of that insult, you gladly will. It could also be a case of karma, right? So you saying to yourself, you know what, karma is going to get them. Not to mention, you can be extremely defensive. There's no talking to you when you're behaving this way, and you will show zero sensitivity towards others, right? You won't want to be warm. You will not want to be inviting. You'll be extremely closed off and guarded. It's as if you need to protect your emotions. And then, so if someone does shame you, or if even they betray you, they're no longer allowed into your shell. They're no longer welcomed into your shell, so to speak. they can't they can't come around your family, your friends. You don't want them anywhere near your home, your space. You will cut all ties, and you won't feel bad about that. And you don't want anything in your environment that reminds you of them, of that person who you've cut off. So any photos, they will go right in the bin. You might burn them. Any place that reminds you of that person, you'll probably not want to visit it anymore. It does depend on the situation, but like I said, your emotions will be heavily impacted. So in this way, you can be quite moody and crabby. Though seeing as this is Cancer, perhaps you do go back to people who are not actually healthy for you. You can also maybe return to people who do treat you terribly. You might give them a few chances, is what I'm trying to say here. But you know what? Still, when we think about pain and your response to pain with this one, I'm thinking, could it be that this anger as a response to your pain, could it be that growing up you experienced issues within your family home? Maybe you have a history of family issues. I'm talking about the most destructive of situations. Sure, every family has their arguments, their disagreements, but perhaps your home was too much to handle, too much to bear, or you had to deal with things on your own. It's as if there was no one to turn to. Or maybe growing up, vulnerability was often seen as a weakness. Or maybe it's that you didn't feel secure opening up. There was no one around to open up to. Perhaps you felt a lack of empathy from others, or it felt uncomfortable just letting others in. So even if people did want to support you, it just felt really, really uncomfortable. You didn't feel safe in this way, maybe, or you didn't feel support emotionally, right? You didn't feel that emotional support from your family. Maybe also your mother struggled with her own stuff. And so there was a lack of emotional support and comfort, or maybe it's that your mother lacked a motherly role herself. Perhaps your needs were not fully met. And so when we think about what happened for you, and regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learned to bury your emotions, to hide them, your feelings. You buried healthy ways of coping or healthy ways of protecting yourself. You buried healthy ways of regulating your emotions. And so, therefore, by integrating these parts of yourself, you can feel closer to others. You can let them know what you need, how you're feeling, what's going on within you deep down. You can also be nurturing. You can be a supportive figure. And you can also consider your own safety, right? What your healthy limits, what your healthy boundaries are too. And so by integrating your Black Moon Lilith, hopefully this can lead to greater self-care, nurturance, compassion. You'll be more receptive, more intuitive. It's these things that can empower you. Thank you, Lilith in Cancer, folks. And now we're going to move on to Black Moon Lilith in Leo. Okay, Black Moon Lilith in Leo, folks. Let's talk about you. Right. When you feel as if you're being overpowered or rejected or humiliated, shamed by other people, you will most likely be very dramatic. It's like, how dare another person try to put me down or overpower me? I am not going to stand for this. And so you'll consider yourself. You'll consider your individuality. In the process, maybe you cut the other person down to size. You'll remind them that they're not all that and that they are not very powerful, right? You are more powerful. You're the ruler of your life, nobody else. You're the one who makes decisions of your own life, or about your own life. Perhaps also you're very stubborn, right? So it can be hard to discuss things fairly with you. Yes. And also, you'll be forceful about your views, about your opinions. Not to mention, you can be extremely prideful. Perhaps as a way to get revenge on someone who tries to put you down, you treat them like they don't exist. No attention, no recognition of their successes and their wins, and them like they are nobodies, they are beneath you, they are the scum of the earth in your eyes. And perhaps you'll let the whole world know too by putting on a show. You'll try to entertain the masses by tearing your enemies down. And if not in front of the world to see, perhaps you'll tell all sorts of stories to family and friends and so on. Let's just say there is no way someone is going to make a mockery of you. And if they try to tear you down, manipulate you, you'll probably have tons of fans or admirers who will defend you and sit with you. Also, you might try to tear down their confidence, make them feel really bad about themselves, insult their creations, poke fun at their interests, make them feel horrible about how they express themselves, that sort of stuff. You might even go after their lovers, their admirers. Essentially, you'll make sure you don't or they don't get any attention, right? Any positive attention, anyway. So, in this regard, you can be quite arrogant and quite egotistic whenever all of this stuff occurs, right? Whenever the situation arises. Now, with that being said, perhaps it's this stuff, it's your anger that is some kind of response to pain, a rejection, a humiliation, times when you've been demonized. So let's explore this. Could it be that growing up, you felt like you couldn't be in the spotlight, right? Were you not given a lot of attention, enough attention? Did you feel loved, or were you continuously overlooked? Maybe anytime you wanted to have fun, you wanted to enjoy yourself, you couldn't, as if you couldn't be a kid. Maybe your youth was stolen from you. All the childlike innocence and the carefree qualities that come with childhood were taken away. Perhaps play was associated with fear, or you were told that you were a show off, you were told that you were attention seeking when you were just being yourself. Or maybe having too much fun was seen as wrong, pathetic. Regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learned to bury your joy, to bury your laughter. You buried the healthy ways of expressing yourself and having fun. And maybe also the healthy ways of entertaining yourself and being in the spotlight. And so, by integrating these parts of yourself, maybe you can be playful, you can be welcoming and warm and really inclusive of others. You can enjoy the things that bring you joy, that light you up. And by integrating your Black Moon Lilith, this can lead to greater enjoyment and enthusiasm and happiness, greater vitality. Yes, we're here for it. You'll be more confident and creative. And a lot of this comes back to your individuality and your sense of self, right? These things can empower you. It's not going to be about trying to sort of one up another person, or if they try to attack you, you're going to get revenge or you're going to get payback, whatever. It's more about, no, I know who I am. This is me. I accept me. I don't have to retaliate. Thank you so, so much. Oh, actually, do you know what? I'm just going to say too, that it's still important to have significant boundaries, right? There can be times when it's good to be quite firm. So for you, Lilith and Leo folks, you're still going to have that confidence in knowing what your boundaries are too, just to highlight that. Yes, thank you so much, Lilith and Leo folks. And now we're going to move on to Black Moon Lilith in Virgo. Okay, Black Moon Lilith in Virgo folks, let's talk about you. Right. When you feel as if you're being overpowered, rejected, humiliated, shamed, even villainized by others, you will most likely be very critical, hypercritical. You'll point out the other person's flaws and you will remind them of their imperfections and their shortcomings. You will remind them that they are not perfect. See, you pay attention to all of those tiny things that so many others don't notice. And whenever you use whatever you use to insult the other person, they'll most likely already be aware of what you're pointing out. Of course, they may not be aware of those things, but then because you point them out, then they become aware. And this then suggests that it's these things that can make it so much worse, because maybe it's something that they're already insecure of, right? They're already insecure about. Oh yeah, you know how to criticize others in a way that cuts deep. Also, you might refuse to do anything for the person who rejected you or put you down. So anything you did for them before, any acts of service, helping out, you're no longer going to do them. And it's this whole attitude of, let's see how well you do without my help. You will suffer without me. Good luck. Perhaps as a way to get revenge on them, you mess with their stuff. Maybe you make a mess on purpose, or you break something of theirs, or maybe you deliberately refuse to clean up after yourself. And as I said, it's bye-bye to any favors you once did for them. Then again, you might silently criticize them in your head or judge them hard with your friends. You can be very judgmental in this regard. Plus, if others then try to shame you or put you down, you'll have an even better way to shame them right back. You might act cold. They are getting zero emotions from you, no emotional warmth, no sympathy, no compassion, anything they want you to listen, anytime they want you to listen, anything they want you to listen to, no, you won't hear it. You will refuse. You might even nag them or be on their case constantly. I can imagine you following your partner around the kitchen, ripping them to shreds. Still, there could be times when you can go completely silent. You have no energy, no time for the BS. But in your head, you're running through a list of all of the times they hurt you, all of the times they messed up, and you'll not let it go either. And so in this way, yes, you can be very judgmental and correcting, fault finding. On the other hand, perhaps it's your anger, it's this resentment, it's this stuff that is a response to pain. So could it be that growing up, people nagged you all the time? You felt that wrath. You felt the nagging, the correcting, the perfectionism. Maybe your parents were very critical, overly critical, very judgmental. It almost felt like there was nothing you could do that was right in their eyes. They wanted you to help out around the house all the time. It's like you can never get a moment to rest, to chill out. It was this chore after this chore after this chore. And when you did finish tasks, you got criticized for them right away. No thank you, no appreciation, no gratitude, straight to criticism. Maybe help was used as a way to get you to conform. Perhaps you were insulted for the way that you did things, or you were shamed for not following a certain routine. Maybe you find it really challenging to finish things, to perform daily tasks, or you feel extremely worried about perfection. Still, regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learn to bury your satisfaction from a job well done. You buried healthy ways of tidying, healthy ways of problem solving, coming up with solutions. You buried healthy ways of being somewhat constructive and critical. So, yeah, the constructive criticism. You jump straight to this is a disaster, that's final, it's no good, there's no coming back from this. And I'm not just talking about other people, I'm talking about yourself. So, by integrating these parts, by working with Black Moon Lilith, you can be more health conscious, you can perform your daily tasks with greater intention, and you can feel more satisfied with the way you do things. Perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater reliability, organization, order. You'll also be a lot more discreet and methodical. You'll be able to use your discernment too. And perhaps you'll also feel less anxious. And so it's these kinds of things that can empower you. Thank you so much, Lilith in Virgo. And now on to Black Moon Lilith in Libra. Okay, so Black Moon Lilith in Libra, folks, let's talk about you. When you feel as if you're being overpowered or rejected by others, you will most likely be passive aggressive. Or you might set out to make sure that justice is served. You set out to create that balance. You might even get legal people involved, the law involved. So if someone does something horrible on you, you may quite literally do the same in return. Though focusing on this passive aggressive stuff, you might feel resentful towards someone for what they did, for how they treated you. But instead of being direct about your feelings, about feeling dissatisfied, your feelings can come out in other ways. In subtle ways, yes, but still hurtful ways. Still with the intention of getting back at the other person. Perhaps you want others to feel the same way they make you feel. You might also act as if you don't need other people's approval when really you're crying out underneath for it. You just don't want them to know that. You don't want them to see you as weak, for example. Still, there can be this tit for tat dynamic that goes on within your relationships. So if someone rejects you, you'll reject them. Or if someone is upset because you rejected them, you'll remind them of the time they rejected you. So in this regard, you can be highly uncooperative. There's no room for compromise here. And if someone tries to manipulate you, shame you, or put you down, again, perhaps you'll remind them of themselves. So if they try to demonize you or villainize you, you act like a mirror. You might even deflect anything bad or horrible or negative away from you and onto others. Projection can come into this. Then again, perhaps you decide to explore other options out there. This could even look like making new friends or being with someone else, out of spite possibly. Or you can become highly insincere towards the person who tried to shame you. You no longer want to play nice. You no longer want to play fair. So whenever we think about this, your anger, your resentment, these things could be a response to pain. So let's think about this. Could it be that growing up, you were rejected when you needed others? When you needed people the most, you were not cared for. Maybe you were ridiculed for not being independent enough. You were made to feel bad about yourself for wanting to be dependent on another person. Keep in mind that there is a level of dependency needed in our relationships. Dependency can help us establish trust. Still, perhaps you were put down for this, or others were not there for you when you needed them the most. They turned their back on you. Now, could it also be that you experienced a terrible breakup? Could be from a lover or friends. You were abandoned. Maybe you even witnessed a terrible divorce or a breakup. Maybe others haven't wanted to get along with you when you've desperately wanted to get along. Still, regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learn to bury your desire to cooperate and to get feedback from others. You buried healthy ways of behaving within your relationships and your partnerships. So thinking about this back and forth process, the give and take within relationships. So by you integrating these parts of yourself, you can be fair and cooperative. You can show sincerity. You can be a great team player. Perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater harmony, companionship, and fairness. You'll be more sharing and exchanging. It's these things that can empower you. Thank you so much, Lilith in Libra. And now on to Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. Okay, Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, folks. When you feel as if you're being overpowered or rejected, humiliated, shamed by others, you will most be very angry, very rageful. I sort of imagine this placement as a representation of how Lilith herself reacted when Adam rejected her. Intense, explosive, but at the same time, getting the hell out of there to focus on herself. This refusal to be around Adam or to comply with God, and at the same time, plotting her revenge. Moody, very, very moody, brooding, feeling everything, but it's anger that comes out. It's anger that's felt. It's this fury, this rage. There's this pushback and this destructiveness. Of course, this can be one or a couple of expressions of this energy, but then there is this other expression whereby which you can keep everything in. You bury other people's rejections deep down within yourself. You stuff them down whilst refusing to let anybody else know how much they've hurt you, how much you're dealing with. So you'll brood over the situation, or you'll have all of these dark thoughts. This can be a really hard place to be. But as you're carrying all of that emotional intensity within yourself, you're actually harming yourself, right? Without any release, you can suffer from mental health issues or just health issues in general. You can be self-destructive without even realizing it. And not letting others in can be a very isolating place. Naturally, there is the ability to transform and change. And with this, you need trust, you need respect. But if you feel as if you can't trust anybody, you can be super secretive, you can be super resentful, possibly vindictive. Now, you might not be there. You might not be the one who actively sets out to get your revenge. It's more that fate decides. You let fate decide. You think they'll get what's coming to them someday. Just wait. In this way, you can be quite unshockable and tenacious, very protective. Also, if someone tries to humiliate you or put you down, you'll see right through it, right? You'll see the projections, you'll see their shadow. You can be very intuitive, very perceptive. You can pick up on other people's intentions very quickly. You pick up on the dark side in a heartbeat. Also, you can behave in this hot and cold way towards partners and family who upset you. So you might blow up in their face. You might look at them passionately and just never want to let go. So yeah, there could be this hot and cold of blowing up in their face or wanting to be so close and not wanting to let them go and being very passionate. On the other hand, perhaps it's your intense reactions, right? It's these things that are a response to pain. So could it be that growing up, you were demonized, villainized for feeling a certain way, right? About someone or something, right? Your asexual feelings were demonized, looked down upon. Could it be that certain asexual feelings were viewed as wrong, as bad, or maybe you were dominated, maybe you were controlled in some way when it came to sex? And also, perhaps you had to defend yourself against people who bullied you, hurt you deeply. It could be that you were forced to keep secrets for others. You weren't allowed to expose people. You weren't allowed to tell the truth. You weren't allowed to expose people for who they really were underneath. Still, regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learned to bury your intense feelings and emotions. You buried healthy ways of exploring your asexuality, as well as burying any hidden subject interests, such as exploring the occult, the paranormal. But by integrating these parts of yourself, you can be a mighty healer. You can be perceptive and compassionate. You can bring what's in the dark to light. Yes, perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater investigation, intimacy, and personal power. You'll be more transformative and incisive. Incisive. It's these things that can empower you. Thank you so much, Lilith in Scorpio. And now onto Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius. All right, Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius, folks, let's talk about you. When you feel as if you're being overpowered or rejected, humiliated, demonized by others, you will most likely get the hell out of there, because there's no way you're waiting around for someone else to control you or manipulate you or to tell you who you are. Anytime restrictions or limitations are placed upon you, these things basically, they make you feel nervous. They make you feel restless. Then again, perhaps there can be times when you are very argumentative, times when you argue your point and you refuse to back down. This part of you that stands for truth and what is right, what is morally just in your view. And so you will preach and preach and preach until you have no voice left. But sometimes it can feel as if you're beating a dead horse. And if this happens, you run off and you proclaim freedom. You might even get revenge by doing the unthinkable or by removing any benefits you gave to the other person. Perhaps you react to someone overpowering you quite angrily and you go wild. You lose all common sense, all control, all reason. And in some cases, perhaps there is no point in debating with the other person. You're up and you're out of there. And you'll be very honest about your next step. You might even make a mockery of the other person, really make them feel like an idiot or rub their face in it. In this way, you can be quite self-righteous, frank, very opinionated. Yes, if someone tries to manipulate you, shame you, put you down, you'll treat them with such disrespect. Oh my gosh. You'll openly express how ashamed you are of them, how disappointed you are. You'll make them aware of their immoral behaviors, and you'll say anything you need to say, right, to really get to them. Zero holding back. At the same time, perhaps you talk things out or you learn something from that experience. But once someone has crossed the line, that's it. You can't unsee it. On the other hand, perhaps it's your anger, it's this stuff that could very well be a response to pain. So let me think. Could it be that growing up, you were ridiculed for exploring unfamiliar territories? Maybe branching out was strongly frowned upon. Wanting to grow and expand was seen as wrong. Maybe you were raised viewing the world a certain way. You had this particular belief system that you believed in, but you couldn't question it. You were not allowed to make decisions for yourself. You couldn't be curious about other forms of religion, for example, or other cultures or other ways of life. It could be that there was or still is this part of you that is screaming out for freedom, but you fear you'll be pulled back in. Still, regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learn to bury your ability to expand, grow, and be free. You buried healthy ways of exploring other ways of life, other cultures, other teachings, other forms of guidance. But by integrating these parts of yourself, Oh my gosh, you can be generous, you can be optimistic, you can discover more about the world, you can inspire others with your wisdom. Perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater visions, eagerness, and imagination, other aspirations to be explored. You'll be more positive and uplifting. It's these things that can empower you. Thank you so much, Lilith in Sagittarius. And now we're going to move on to Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn. Okay, Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn, folks, let's talk about you. When you feel as if you're being overpowered or rejected, humiliated, villainized by others, you will most likely act very cold and distant. There's no way you'll put up with others trying to dominate or control you. And you might not even let them know you're upset, right? You might not let them know that you're upset with them either, because perhaps you think to yourself, why waste my energy on them? Especially if others don't know how to take responsibility for their actions. You strongly dislike people like that. Then again, you might even indulge in some power play where it turns into this, I'll show you that I'm more wealthy, I'm more successful, I'm more accomplished than you. Yeah, if others can't live up to your standards or your expectations, then perhaps you rethink the very validity of the relationship. You might not even waste your time trying to get revenge on them. Perhaps your hard work and your dedication will speak for themselves. It's this whole money talks attitude. In this regard, you can be quite unforgiving, dominant. On the other hand, perhaps you're someone who doesn't care about showing your wealth, showcasing your wealth, your recognition to the world. You know you're a success and you don't need to show others. Maybe you move in silence for a long time and then years down the line, you are rewarded. Or it could be that you possess fears regarding things like success and recognition. Also, if someone does try to manipulate you or shame you or put you down, you can be unforgiving. You might cut the other person to shreds or decide to remove them from your life completely. You know what you expect of yourself, and so you know what you expect of others too. And so perhaps a part of you that wants others to get in line with what you expect from them. So there's a part of you that wants others to get in line with what you expect of them from them. You can also act like this parental figure towards others, like a member of authority, or like you need to parent them, you need to teach them right from wrong, guide them. You can also lack that emotional connection. And so, in this regard, yeah, you can be rather ruthless. On the other hand, it could be this resentment or this anger that is a response to pain. So, let's think about it. Could it be that growing up, your accomplishments were not recognized? Maybe committing to something or someone was seen as a negative thing, or perhaps wanting to be successful was seen as super egotistic. Then again, perhaps you lacked a father figure, or he lacked a fatherly role. Maybe he was absent because he was struggling with his own stuff. Perhaps in your eyes, he failed as a parent. Still, it could be that there was a lack of recognition there, a lack of respect. Maybe you fear being seen as a failure, or you possess these high expectations of yourself. You might even have been forced to grow up, to mature, to be an adult far too earlier, so before you were ready. Still, regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learn to bury your ability to recognize when you've achieved something, when you've worked really, really hard. You buried healthy ways of being responsible, structured, and accomplished. After all, you can be demanding when it comes to things like order and organization. So, by integrating these parts of yourself, hopefully you can become a pro at whatever you commit to. You can learn to not be so critical of yourself and of others. And you can have a healthy sense of what it means to be successful, what it means to be an adult. Perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater respect, integrity, and discipline. You'll be more constructive and patient. It's these things that empower you. Thank you so much, Lilith in Capricorn. And now on to Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius. All right, Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius, folks. Well. When you feel like you're being overpowered or rejected, humiliated, villainized by others, you will most likely detach hard. Okay? You'll refuse to engage. You'll not show any emotion, even though you're feeling all types of ways on the inside. Though your face will most likely clearly show how pissed off you are. You'll not give the other person any of your attention either. It's like they are invisible to you, they don't exist. And you couldn't give two Fs about them. You might even feel like removing them from your life altogether. You might contemplate it. So just suddenly deciding, you know what? I don't want to be around these people anymore. Or I no longer want to be friends with this person. Or I don't need these idiots in my life anymore. These sheeple who are influenced far too easily by others. Now, I do say here, you suddenly deciding, but in actuality, I think that this is a process. Maybe there are times when it's sudden, but there could also be times when you think long and hard before you go there. And oh my word, the level of cold you display will be off the charts. You'll come across as extremely uncaring, unfeeling. Oh, and you'll probably be really, really rude. You'll say things with zero tact. And any courtesy you showed that person before, gone. All gone. You will no longer be thoughtful towards them. You don't want to cooperate. You'll be highly disagreeable. And you might also be highly disruptive. In this regard, you can be dismissive, erratic, rebellious, unpredictable. Yeah, you can be very rebellious, where you rebel against anyone who tries to order you around in a controlling or manipulative way. And so, if someone tries to manipulate you or shame you or put you down, you'll be very strong-minded and opinionated. You won't let them get away with it, that's for sure. And if you have an opinion to add, you'll say it with conviction. You'll stand firm in your position. You'll remind them that you have strength in your beliefs and you're not going to tolerate any type of unfairness or inequality. You might actually surprise others with how quickly you can go from being really interested in what they have to say, being interested in their life, to what you have to say, to what they have to say is just beneath you. Right? It's beneath you. It's ridiculous. You don't want anything to do with them. It's just that hot and cold, right? And also, I'm also thinking that whenever there's nothing left to say, that's it. Silence. You're not going to say anything. Why bother? When it comes to revenge, also, you might try to humiliate those who betray you in front of an audience, in front of a group. That's a possibility. Or, as I'm trying to get at here, you might distance yourself from those people entirely and start aiming higher in your own life. You might try to accumulate fame or recognition as a way to say F you to the haters. On the other hand, perhaps it's your anger, it's your rage that is a response to pain. So let's think about this. Let's think about how this stuff can go a bit deeper. Could it be that growing up you were rejected anytime you tried to express your individuality? You were shunned and put down for having your own thoughts, your own mind, your own ideas. Maybe you were made to feel like a freak, a weirdo, right? Or maybe you felt like you couldn't fit in anywhere. Not in your family, not in your friendship group, not in clubs in school. No group of people wanted you. Perhaps this resulted in you being an outcast, whilst feeling highly insecure about your individuality. This part of you that is actually desperate to join in, but is waiting to be pushed out again. Still, regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learned to bury your uniqueness, to bury your inventiveness. You buried healthy ways of joining in and coming together as a community, as a group, as a team. And so you also buried healthy ways of being an individual with your own mind. So by integrating these parts of yourself, you can be more confident. You'll gladly engage with others without shutting down. And you can accept that others have a mind of their own too. Perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater cooperation, originality, and friendship. You'll be more caring and intriguing. It's these things that can empower you. Thank you so much, Lilith in Aquarius. And now on to Black Moon Lilith in Pisces. All right, lastly then, we have Black Moon Lilith in Pisces. Let's talk about you. When you feel as if you're being overpowered, rejected, humiliated by others, you will most likely become very emotional and very hypersensitive. You'll take everything personally due to how deeply you're impacted. You might also feel confused over how to react or what to do next. Perhaps there is a part of you that wants to desperately swim away from the situation and go into hiding, but there's another part of you that wishes things could be different. It's this whole attitude of, why is this person lacking empathy? Why are they not trying to show compassion and kindness? You can be idealistic in this regard. Perhaps you can also you can experience periods where you isolate yourself, periods where you act delusional, where you want to get away from reality, you escape. You see what you want to see within the situation or person, or maybe you can pick up on the other person's subconscious vibes. Okay, or you can pick up on what's being hidden, right? You can pick up on subconscious motivations, just, reading the room vibes, things like that. It's as if you can sense when a rejection is coming too. I'm going to say that. You can maybe sense when it's going to happen. Though in terms of revenge, well, it really depends on the situation and how you're feeling. So for example, there can be times when you feel numb after a rejection, times when you want to explode, times when you cry and cry and cry, and you can seem to really you cannot seem to get control, right? You can't get any kind of control of your emotions and how you feel. It's uncontrollable. But then also times when you blame yourself, right? You blame yourself for everything. You think, oh my gosh, it was me. And then you feel ashamed. Perhaps during the times when you're ready to explode, you can lash out where you completely lose all self-control. And you're thinking you're going to be sorry for what you did. In this way, you can be quite temperamental and intuitive. And if someone tries to manipulate you or shame you, put you down, make you feel less than, you'll use the power of manipulation in return, right? You can see through the other person. Or you might act all gullible when really you know what's going on, Then again, maybe you make the other person see how unsympathetic they're being. You make them look at how they're trying to treat another person. You reflect back at them the part of them that is victimizing someone else. On the other hand, it could be that these reactions, this anger, is a response to pain. So, could it be that growing up, you were told that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too erratic? Perhaps others saw you as crazy, as delusional. Others never believed you. You were treated like a liar. Or perhaps you were made to feel bad about your imagination, your feelings, your insight, your thoughtfulness. Maybe you were looked at as having your head in the clouds too much. Others treated you like you were too dreamy, too vague. Still, regardless of your personal experience, maybe you subconsciously learned to bury your many feelings and your imagination. You buried healthy ways of exploring the fantasy world, tapping into your imagination, healthy ways of exploring your highly creative and artistic side. So, by integrating these parts of yourself, you can be very caring and spiritual. You can embrace your creative and artistic side. and you can explore your many emotions. Perhaps integrating your Black Moon Lilith can lead to greater rhythm, intuition, and compassion. You'll be more in tune with your dreams and spirituality. It's these things that can empower you. Okay, so thank you very much, Lilith, and with that, everybody, this has been the video all about Black Moon Lilith through the signs. I want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you benefited from your sign description today. If you do wish to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you benefited from this video at all, you can always buy me a coffee. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give the video a like if you find it to be helpful. I hope you learned something new, and stay tuned for more. I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!